Hello, this is Josiah, and I am going to rant about linguistics for as long as I could. So basically, linguistics, I am having typo already. I'm going to turn off the delay. So linguistics has many parts. The first part, I would say, the part I'm interested in is phonology, right? So this is sounds. And then we have two things, but I think they're the same, which is syntax and morphology. Never mind the typo, it's the same thing. Whatever, I don't care. I would call them grammar, just colloquially, because I am not super interested, but they're cool. Okay. Now, after this, we have the other I would call weird stuff, the stuff that you might not consider exactly like linguistics. For example, there's psychology. How do I spell psychology? I'm not spelling that psychology. Anyways, it's brains. Brains. So, how language acquisition, for example, does a baby learn a language so that relates to your brain, something about your brain, so not the language itself, how language works with the brain. And we have the other field, which is computer linguistics or something like that. Anyways, computer linguistics deals with anything that has to do with language and computer. It doesn't make sense, but it makes sense. So let's say you want to put a language into a format that the computer can understand. So basically those AI bullshit, that's one of them. Or voice recognition, that's one of them. Or just, the analysis of a language, say, like a word and what conjugation it can be, like how do I put that into the computer. So I would call that nerd shit, but honestly linguistics is nerdier, so I don't know. Anyways, and then after that we have culture. I don't know the name of this, but basically this is the part that deals with how linguistics affects culture and how culture affects linguistics. So, for example, English, being a very dominant language, has exported the word okay to basically any language. I am not writing the word language so many times. Anyways, so this is like the most common things you're gonna see in linguistics, the vast majority of them, but also there's tons of other stuff. So I'm not here to say this is all of linguistics, but this is most of linguistics, the most things you're gonna hear about anyways. No, you don't hear about this. Linguistics are nerds. Linguists are nerds. We're nerds. Cool. So I'm gonna talk about phonology and syntax and morphology mostly because that's the stuff I'm interested in, and thus I have the most to elaborate. This is a challenge on how much I can rant about linguistics before stopping. So, cool. Let's talk about phonology, my favorite. So, phonology concerns with phonology. Phonology concerns with the sounds that we make. So, for example, in the English language, you would have, I don't know, something like cat, something like hat. So you see that this part is the same. That's rhyme, right? Okay, then I may have other words that also start with the ka sound, but it ends in something else. For example, maybe I can have kid. Cool, that's interesting. And so this is what we will call a phoneme, or is it called a phoneme? I forgot. There's two of them, but anyways, I'll just call them a phoneme. So this is a single sound. It's just one sound. So for example, cat is composed of k, and then at, ta, and then kid is composed of k, I, d. So this is what they're made of. And why hat rhymes is because hat is composed of ha, a, t. So this is one singular sound. Okay, and this basically it includes anything that you would say is made up of multiple strings of sound that makes a word. Kinda. I'm not. I don't think I can get to explaining how words don't exist. But okay. Anyways, this is one singular sound. In combining sounds, we can make words. So let's think of what kind of complexities I can build on top of this. Okay. So now with the knowledge of sound, we can really get to consonants and vowels, which you probably have heard of. Consonants. Consonant. I am not good at writing English. Anyways, consonant and vowel. So as we can see here, ka and ha from hat. I'll write it down. So these are consonants, and a, I. These are vowels. Okay. What is the difference between a consonant and a vowel? How do we define them? You know, at first, these are defined after Western linguistics was invented by some German and French people. It's kind of Western linguistics invented by a German person, but a lot of that is also developed by British and French people. So this is largely based on their perspective of what a language is like, and for people coming from this kind of European language context, it's very easy to imagine language as being distinctly consonants and a vowel. But okay, I haven't explained what they are. So you would hear it in school or somewhere. I assume you speak English mostly. If not, you'll probably hear about it elsewhere in your particular language. But generally, a consonant is when the air pushes out of your so air comes from your lung out of your mouth or some other places, but it gets outside, right? And consonant basically means that something stops it. Something stops that air or restrict that air significantly, and we call that a consonant. And for a vowel, it doesn't. So let's say, take for example, if you just breathe out and make a noise, ah. Okay, now if you close your mouth, that would be an M. So that's an M. M is a consonant. A moment. I got thirsty already. So before we do that M, you'll notice that if you just open your mouth completely, just do nothing, and then breathe out air, that would be a ah. Actually, in IPA it's written like this. Oh, I can talk about IPA anyways. This is consonant, this is a vowel. The difference is that for vowels, it doesn't significantly restrict any airflow, and we call that a vowel. Cool. So let me ask a weird, not really a weird question. Let me just ask a question. So, what is Y and W? Right? You would see them in something like type. This is not a good example, but we can see them in type. For W's, for English speakers, it's not that weird. It's definitely a consonant, but we'll get to that later. So for type, we see it appear in a position in English language would mean a vowel. But is it a vowel? If we break down the sound, this is ta. Don't notice that. It's a vowel. It's sound. Anyways, you actually say type. This is the same as if you were to write out. I don't know how else would you type, like in pipe. Like this is how else you would write it out. So this is not really about Y at all, but we can see it in the other example. If I say happy, you'll find Y in a position where your, let's say, English teacher would tell you that this is a vowel. Right. So they say this is a vowel, but okay, what about yellow? Right? They would say that this is a consonant. Is Y a vowel or a consonant? So I'm gonna maybe, possibly blow your mind. Maybe you know this before, but waiting it to save. I don't think I have to wait for it to save. Anyway, So what you hear about Y is it a vowel, or is it I'm not gonna write out the entire thing, or is it a consonant, right? If you recall back to when I said that the main definition of what defines a vowel is that there's no significant restriction. In consonant, there is. So what counts as significant? As with all things in life, this is basically an arbitrary line. How do I spell arbitrary? Arbitrary. This is basically arbitrary, completely arbitrary. So what we call vowels are actually just sounds that we found in like patterns in English language, for example, not English language, sorry, just any language. We found that we often have a, e, I. I'm gonna put the dots there, o, and u in many languages. There are languages that don't exactly have this set, but this is basically in like 90% of all languages. Cool. So we think E is a vowel sound. So let's say happy. I can rewrite it as this. This is a vowel. We call that a vowel because we found that in a lot of languages we have some sounds that go to a particular place, some sounds that go to the other place. So here's the funny thing. For the sounds of yellow and happy, I'm gonna write it down. Yellow and happy. For these sounds, this is actually the exact same sound. Well, not the exact same. This is this quote-unquote same sound. And there's gonna be a lot of quote-unquotes, and I apologize. But it's the nature of things, isn't it? This thing here, as I just demonstrated, you can write it with the I, the letter I. You can just think of it as the E sound, as in kid. Something similar to that. You can think of these sounds as the same one as this, and all of your pronunciation would barely be noticeably different, right? Because they're the same thing, actually. So now we've found out that there are consonants and vowels, and there are also things that kind of sit between and can go wherever they like. So consonants and vowels, very useful thing, but they're also completely arbitrary. This is a very common theme in linguistics. A lot of things are just arbitrary. We know there's a pattern, but we also know that you can analyze it in a different angle and come up with a completely different answer. We know that. So this doesn't mean that Western linguistics is wrong. It's just that Western linguistics is largely just this particular perspective. And this is a good perspective. We found out a lot of things from this perspective, but this is not a perfect perspective. And often for many languages, it will have multiple, we call it analysis. So this is kind of similar to how you would say, like, for example, type. For some analysis of English, they say this is a long E sound. You might have heard of this. This is a etymologically based perspective. They call it a long E sound. But for some people, some analysis, they simply say that the vowel in there is I. They just say that this is the I vowel. Right? They don't say this is like a long E or a short E. They simply throw away the idea that the short E and the long E are related at all. They're just different things. So you can take many different perspectives and come up with correct answers. This is a very important thing that I think for a lot of lay people, they have no idea the languages can have multiple answers. Because we can't capture its entirety. We just can't. So we have these incomplete answers from a particular perspective, but this is good perspective, and I'm going to continue with it. So sorry, we've seen a lot of these symbols from like here or from a couple pages back. These are what we call IPA, International Phonetic Alphabet, although IPA mostly refers to the beer. No, the beer, yes. But also, IPA mostly refers to International Phonetic Association, which is a French organization because they made this thing. And so it's based on the Latin alphabet, which is, A to Z, roughly. A to Z and a bunch more. Okay, so this is the IPA, and we usually use this to communicate our ideas to other linguistic nerds, or, to appear snobby or something, or, just to have fun. We like this because we have funny symbols like, how did it look like? I forgot how it looked like. Oh my god. I think this... Did it look like this? This is embarrassing. We have funny symbols like this. This is in Icelandic. We have funny symbols like this. It's just a capital B but squashed. We have goofy symbols like this thing. And so yeah, we like this. International Phonetic Alphabet. It's a writing system used to hopefully write down every possible sound. And it fails, but I'm not gonna elaborate on that. I'm just gonna let it sit there. Anyways, so in the International Phonetic Alphabet, it adapts the idea that there are vowels and there are consonants, and it's kind of a background thing on how it works. But we have mainly two charts. So we have the vowel chart. And then we have the consonant chart. This is very exciting. We're getting to the cool part. What cool to me, maybe not to you, but you're here, so you're trapped with me. In the vowel chart, we mainly distinguish three axes. And what are they? They are openness, so something like A to E. So if you imagine going from actually you don't need to imagine, just do it. So you go from A and then slowly close your mouth and put your tongue closer and closer to the roof of your mouth. Try to morph slowly from A to E. So you can go from I, yeah, this is openness. E sits here and A sits here. Cool. So this is what's going on with type, by the way, here. So this sound, this is I. Okay. And the second axis that we distinguish is backness. So I is a front vowel, and if you imagine morphing from E again to oo, so you may feel that kind of middle back-ish to your tongue. Let's say this is your tongue, like middle back-ish area. It feels like it was peaking here in E, and it was more like to the back here with its terrible drawings to oo. So this is back and this is front and this is open. So actually you can do the same thing with A as well, A to oo as well. So you can say ow, but actually we also have a open back vowel. Let me put it here, it's more accurate. And yes, they are actually just the double level A and the single level A. These are the actual IPA symbol. You can imagine our frustrations when a font stylizes like they choose one or the other, because we have this special one. Like this is a special Unicode symbol specifying that it's one story, but I don't think there's like a Unicode letter for specifying double story. I forgot. Maybe there isn't. Maybe there is. But anyways, it's kind of a frustrating thing. But it's also not a common sound to be distinguished. What is this sound? This is the American English cod sound. It's this sound, kinda, because not all Americans speak exactly the same. We can get to that later, dialects, but not all Americans speak the same. So this is, for some Americans, this sound here, where's my mouse? This sound is the cod sound. Okay, so these are the two axes, openness and front and back. So openness and backness. There's actually a third axis that I haven't talked about because it's not really distinguished in English, but if you speak German, let me think of an example. Let's see. Fuck it, French. Do you speak French? Cool. You might know how to pronounce this in French. Du, right? Do they say tu or du? I think they say tu, actually. Tu. This is du. And this is the sound of a front, closed, rounded. I'm not sure if it goes in this order, but its front is closed and it's rounded. It's rounded. Why? Because your lips, let me draw terrible lips. This is your lips when you're saying E, and when you're saying U, this is your lips, roughly. So you're rounded. It's rounded. And we also actually have a unrounded. So unrounded is kind of like E. So your lips don't make a little circle. This is the unrounded. Back, unrounded, closed vowel. It doesn't matter what order you say it. It does matter what order you say it, but I don't care. Yeah. And it's a M flipped 180 degrees. It looks like that. Kind of looks like a W. Anyways. So that's the... Yeah, I think that's all the axes. So this is roundedness. These are rounded. It's getting crowdy. Rounded. Okay, so we have openness, backness, rounded, right? These are the three axes that we distinguish. Actually, there's a lot more. Everything has exceptions, but we're going about the basics here, so I'm not gonna stop for that. Or else I can probably go for a couple hours more. Anyways, so going to consonants. In consonants, we mainly distinguish two things. We call them M-O-A and P-O-A. So that's manner of articulation and place of articulation. They're big words, and they don't make sense. We use them to shorten our communication, but they don't make sense. Don't talk about that. Nobody cares about this. Anyways, I want you to do this with me. So let's pronounce pa, ta, ka, pa, ta, ka, pa, ta, ka in order. This is in the front. So if you feel where the contact is being made, pa, ta, ka, pa, ta, ka, pa, ta, ka, the contact points moves backwards in your mouth, right? So these are different points of contact where part of your, most likely tongue, although P is not from tongue. Anyways, this is where the point of contact, which is when we defined consonant and vowels, we said that there's significant blockage of the air. This is what we mean. This is the blockage here. So where the blockage happened, basically, where the significant blockage was happening. And this is what we call the place of articulation, where that happened. There's also how it happened. So if you will, follow me again with ba, da, ga. So if you say ba, da, ga, these are different manners of articulation. They happen in the same place. So you notice ba and pa happen in the same place. Da and ta happen in the same place. Ga and ga happen in the same place. They happen differently. This time they are voiced. So this is the third axis that we distinguish-ish, but there's a bunch of stuff. Anyways, there's voicedness. There's voicedness distinguished in consonants. So let's try that again with let me think if there's some other sounds that I could try. No, I can't think of anything. Let's go with fa, sa, ha, fa, sa, ha, fa, sa, ha, fa, sa, ha. Or let's try the voiced version, va, za, and this is the voiced version of ha, but you don't have this in English, so you don't need to do that one. Va, za. So za happened with your tongue and your teeth, right? And va happened with your teeth and your lips. So this is the place of articulation, happens with your teeth and lips. And these happen with your tongue and your teeth. So it's like very far in the front, kinda. And then we have ga, and ga, which happens with your tongue, but like the further back. You don't need to understand. Anyways, it's this is the place of articulation where the obstruction happened, and then we have manner of articulation, how it happened. Cool. Okay, so that's most of linguistics done. Most of phonology done. I'm just getting finished with phonology. Anyways, that's basics of phonology. And so just to refresh, phonology is the study of phonology. I cannot write, for God's sake. Phonology concerns sounds, the sounds that we make. These sounds are composed of, like, we can break them down into simple units like this, and they are considered phoneme. Phoneme can be consonant or vowel. Big asterisks. They can be consonant or vowel. Vowels concern with I'm just gonna use U. That's good enough. Vowels concern with openness, with backness. This is front, back, and it concerns with roundedness. This is rounded. And consonants, consonant. Consonant concerns with the place of articulation, the manner of articulation. So we have pa, ta, ka, and we have fa, sa, ha, and we also have ma and na, for example. So I think that's almost everything about phonology done. We can get to the next part, hopefully, if that's not too confusing. I hope I can ask if you have any questions, but yeah, that would be great. But no, not here. This is single-sided, so I can rant about everything. Syntax and morphology. Cool. Okay, so syntax and morphology, I think of them both as grammar, but there's kind of a difference between them. Kinda. Okay, syntax and morphology. Okay. So syntax and morphology, I just think that I could add orthography to it. Should I add it? I could add orthography, but I don't think I'll get to it. Orthography. We might get to it if I survive. So syntax and morphology, mainly distinguished by whether they're within a word or without a word. This is a word. And syntax is inter-words, right? So syntax deal with something like, for example, in English, you would say a red book, your adjectives, and then your noun, instead of book red, which is what they would say in Spanish, right? Libro rojo, something like that. Not something like that, it's exactly libro rojo. But yes, this is syntax, deals with between words, how the words act with each other, and morphology acts with inside a word. So, for example, yeah, I could use that for example. Yeah, so I could say something like I love. I'm not gonna spell linguistics. I can use you. I love you, and this would be nominative case. And if you love me, and I hope you do, this is the oblique case, and also my love. This would be the genitive case. Is there another one? I might have misremembered. I think, does English have a fourth one? English doesn't have a fourth one. Anyways, this is the cases that English distinguish. Basically, morphology is one word, many different forms. This is all the same word. So it deals with inside a word. Syntax deals with between a word. And as I just kind of already spoilered, words kinda don't really exist-ish, which is why I tend to think of them as just grammar. Just yeah. And I don't have too much to talk about it, but I do have a couple of things to elaborate on syntax morphology. So the basic of syntax is breaking down syntax tree. So you get a sentence, and you're gonna try to turn it into a kind of a clear structure. So here's what we can do. Like, for example, I love you is comprised of I, which is the, I forgot the name. Is it the head? No, not the head. This is the, I forgot what it's called. I am not good at syntax. I just said I am not too interested in syntax, so I just kind of don't care. But it is, you would split this into I and love you. So this is a thing that can be done, and inside the thing that can be done, there's two components, I love you. So we can do some really fun stuff with this. Like, for example, almost, I think, if I remember correctly, unless I'm hallucinating, I'm not too sure, but I think basically all languages on Earth, all human languages on Earth, have a feature called recursion, and if you know programming, you kinda know what it means. So I could say, let me spell it out before I say it. This is, I think I love you. I think I love you. Right? And so this is a thing that I can do. And I am combining the fact that I love you. This is a statement. I love you is a thing that, I can just do whatever about it. I guess I love you. I think I love you. Yeah, something like that. So these are, to think that I love you is a thing that I can do. So this is another. This is what we call a noun phrase. So you, noun phrase. I love you can be a noun phrase, and in fact we can do this even further. We can just do this forever. I think I love you. I think I love you. We can go on forever. So this is called recursion, and basically all human languages can do this, I think. I am not very sure about anything at all, because linguistics is wild. This is wild, I tell you. There's some stuff that you assume every language does, and then they just, like, don't, for some reason. But yeah, this is recursion, and this can happen. Yeah. And also there are funny cases of some words that you can, some sentences that you can break down in different ways. This leads to syntactic ambiguity or something. But yeah, there are sentences like, time flies like an arrow, and fruit flies like banana, or something like that. I don't remember. I think that's a lexical one. But anyways, some sentences you can break down in multiple ways, and that's, ambiguity. Cool. And for morphology, yeah, as I said, it's about one word. And if you know some, is that Greek? I think that's Greek. If you know some Greek, this is form. So the form of a word, it can appear in multiple ways. And if you know about some Latin, they have like these tons of different ways to say the exact same thing. One of my favorite example, not from Latin, sorry, but one of my favorite examples about morphology, kinda, is, I'm using cat for examples again. So in English, you have this thing. This is called a plural. Plural means that there are more than one, or it basically means there are more than one. So in English, these are the same thing. These are the exact same thing. Not exactly, but if I say, like, for example, dog and cat, completely different things. Cats and cats. Did I just say the plural one twice? I did. Cat and cats, completely different things. Am I making sense? I don't think I'm making sense, but this is my video, not yours. So this is plural, and maybe you have heard that in Chinese we don't do that. And I'm gonna write it out as well, because it's just because I love cats. This is cat, and this is cats. Exactly the same thing. And I think this is a big thing about language as well. It's kind of a fact, but again, big asterisk. I don't want to give you the wrong idea that there's anything certain in linguistics. We have theories. Every of them are so vague. Anyways, so we don't distinguish that. But does it mean that we can say that there are cats? Yes, we can. But the way that we say it is that we just say an amount. Like, there are many cats. So we say there are many cat. I don't need to tell you cats, and you can figure out that there's probably multiple of them, because I said many. There are 2 cat, for example. Definitely more than one. I just told you it's 2. But the interesting thing is, for English, when you say cat, it's definitely exactly one of it. When you say cats, it's definitely exactly more than one of it. Or I think 0 is also cats. Yeah, asterisk. asterisk on everything. Point is, in Chinese, when I say Mao, you have no clue. Like you don't know how many. You don't know if it's one or a lot of them. Hopefully, there are a lot of them. One is great, but yeah, we can say we are able to express that there are more than one, but we only do it explicitly. And this is one thing that is kind of a fact asterisk about languages, is that we can all say the same thing. So if you can express this idea in one language, you can express the same idea, roughly the same idea, in another language. There's basically never, a case where it's impossible to communicate what you mean. Every language is able to say whatever. But as you can see here, in English you only need to say cats to convey the idea that there are more than one. Whereas in Chinese you have to say it explicitly. You have no clue from here. You just have to say it explicitly. And I think this is pretty much the main thing that's different, like from language to language. That the difference between the grammar is largely syntax, where the words are, and is this morphology? Kinda, yeah. Anyways, what kind of things they have to specify. You can say anything. You can say, I guess, to mean that you're not certain about whatever comes next, right? But for some languages, it's a part of the verb. You can say that I jump. I don't know, the cat jump. Just use a goofy consonant here, jump, for example. If I say jump, it means that I guess the cat jumped, but I'm not really sure. I think it does, but I'm not guaranteed. I'm not guaranteed that's what the cat did. Maybe it just walked away, but I think it jumped. I don't have any direct evidence about this. Felt like it jumped. Is my guess. For some languages, you just have to say it. You have to put that in the verb conjugation itself. You have to say, you have to express the plausibility of this statement explicitly. You have to say it. And this is what I think the main difference between languages is, where words are and what you have to say and what you could just supply with context later. But yeah, I think that's my OC. You can pause and look at her. She's awesome. That's grammar, syntax, and morphology. I can still go on. I can still go on. The footage might corrupt. The footage probably going to corrupt. So we have syntax and morphology, and we have psychology about the brain. I don't know if I have anything interesting to say about this. Computer, I definitely have a lot of interesting things to say about this, but they don't feel like linguistics to me. Culture is cool. I could talk about culture. Linguistics and culture. Nah, don't feel like it. Orthography, let's talk about orthography. We got to orthography, yes. Okay, so previously I mentioned in the phonology part that we can break down a word into simple components, and they are called phonemes. Sorry, I need to do an intro about this. Orthography concerns with graphy, which is Greek for write. Concerns with writing. So previously we said that cat can be broken down into cat, and that's simple, right? C makes the cut sound, A makes the A sound, and T makes a ta sound. Cool. But here comes a example of when it doesn't exactly match. So I'm thinking if I can find. Oh yeah, I have an example about this. This match, the word itself, is a good example. So we have ma, a, and ch, match. There's three things here. There's three things here. What the hell? How about the? There are three things here. The. How do I write I think it's this one. There. The air. The air. That's two. That's two letters for one sound. What the hell, right? This is a digraph. To right. To right. When you use two letters to represent one sound. This is a digraph. So you may recognize this in Japanese as well. I don't know if I can remember anything. Is this key? I forgot. Is there something I can remember? Ni. Is this ni? What is... God. Key... I'm trying to show off, like... Okay, ya. I think that's ya. And I'm just gonna find one... she. Okay, here. So, this is... she... Yeah, I hope I didn't get it wrong, because I don't... Like, I know, like, 10 hiragana characters, and that's it. This is she, yeah, this is two syllables. But, if I write it like, this, and then I have a small ya, that's how you write it, right? Please tell me that's how you write it. This is sha. Sha. So, this is one syllable. One sound written by, okay, I'm being inconsistent with myself, but basically, yeah, like one thing written with two letters. Asterisk, asterisk everywhere. Oh god. This is a digraph. We call this a digraph as well. So if there's digraph, is there trigraph? There is, and if you speak German, you know one. The sh. Schleudern or something, I don't know. It's not the most simple example. Schnell. Schnell is a good example. Schnell. Which means fast. So, sh, ne, sh, n, e, l, schnedl, schnedl. Three letters, one sound. Cool. So, orthography concerns with what you write, and this is for like Latin alphabet, and we see that in Latin alphabet things can get quite fun. For example, I mentioned earlier that happy, that Y in happy can just be replaced with the I, and this is actually because the scribes that wrote, English, they felt like the letter Y, which originally came from Greek, I think, yeah, Y. This is seen as like basically just a hipster I. Like they were seen as the exact same thing. They were seen as the same letter. Okay? And the reason is because the letter Y back in Greek, which I'm just gonna write it with uppercase, it's clearer this way. And how do I write U? I think it's this. Yeah, but anyways, this was pronounced U. This was pronounced U. So like the German U and U. If you know German, maybe you don't. I don't know. This is U. If you speak French instead, this is tu. This is du. Kind of like that. Anyways, so when this letter entered into the Latin alphabet, so the Roman Empire, right? Latin alphabet. This terrible R that I wrote there. When it entered into Latin, which is the Romans Empire, the speakers of Latin largely were not able to pronounce the U sound. By the way, the Greek don't have this sound anymore. They turned into something else. Anyways, the ancient Latin speakers weren't able to pronounce this, and how they ended up pronouncing it is like a E. They pronounce it like a E. And so, when they use words from Greek, so something like hydro, which means water, I think, if I remember correctly, when they wrote this down, they kept the Y from the Greeks. But they don't actually pronounce it. They just pronounce it as E. So hydro, right? They don't say hydro. They say hydro. And I am not an expert in Latin pronunciation, so if you want to elaborate in the comments, go ahead. I don't care. So when other languages adopted Latin alphabet and tried to write their own language with Latin alphabet, they saw this letter and were like, hey, that's the same thing. This is just the same thing. So why would why bother? So for them, it's just a stylistic E. In fact, you might recognize this letter as a J, but is that a Y? Did I actually write it? You recognize this as J. But early on, this is actually also the same thing as E. They just write this letter as a alternative form. So you would say something like Julius, and that's just the same thing as if you were to write it with I. Julius, right? Julius, and they just use this. And the interesting thing is that for words that start with I, it's also written like this. It's just the start of I. They just write it like that. And let me think of examples. Can I find any examples in English? Like inside. I can just say in, but I'm gonna write inside so it's more obvious. So this is JNSIDE. This is how they would have wrote it. Inside. That's just I. They were the same thing. So this is the histories of Latin alphabet, and there are far more in detail and complete videos about it, and I recommend you to just check them out. It's really, really cool. So that's Latin alphabet, and we're not even halfway done. We're about 20% of our way done, ish, because the rest of the world don't use Latin. We use some other stuff. Like Chinese. This is not Latin. This is not Latin, is it? This is the Chinese characters, or kanji, or hanja, or what do they call it in Vietnamese? Zinom, or some shit. Zi chung guek. I forgot. Sorry, man. This is Chinese, and it's not Latin alphabet. There are a lot of things that are not Latin alphabet, and for example, Russian is not written with Latin alphabet. G, A, B, G, D. This is Cyrillic, and this is Chinese, and I don't remember any Devanagari. I'm gonna use Banla, which is Bengali, for substitute, because I forgot. Sorry, man. I never learned it. Why did I learn this? I have a Bengali friend, that's why. How did I write that? I think that's a ga. Is that a ga? Please tell me that's a ga. Yeah. This is Bengali. And what else? This is Arabic. If I can remember writing anything. Al. Wait, al. Ah. Is it written like this? No, it's this. Al. Ah. Ra. B. Is there an E in here? Lara. Is it above or below? I think it's below. Al Arabi. B. Is there an E? I forgot if there's an E. Sorry if I got that wrong. Arabia. This is Arabic. And this Hebrew. I cannot write any Hebrew. What else do we have? There's a bunch. There's a bunch. You get the point. Oh, there's Greek. I can write Greek. I'm too lazy to write Greek. Alpha, Beta, Gamma? Yeah, I think Gamma comes next. Theta? How do you pronounce this thing? I forgot how do you pronounce this thing. Anyways, most of the world does not use the Latin alphabet. We use something else, and these are all orthography. These are how we write things. For the hiragana example we saw earlier. Ah, yes, hiragana. Shi, ya, shiya. I think that's shiya. Please tell me that's shiya, or else it'd be very embarrassing. That's Korean. Korean's a good one. Ha. Han. Is that how you write this? Han. G. This? Sorry, my Korean friends, if I wrote that wrong. Hangul. I think it is that. Gul. Wait, Hangul. This? Is that how you write? I'm not good at memorizing things. I forgot like everything, bro. Hangul, the Korean alphabet, also very cool. So, in these writings, probably the one that stands out to you, I am assuming that you're a English speaker, would be these ones, because they are, a bit further away from you, and they are very interesting. So, in Latin alphabet, you generally use one symbol per sound. As I told you earlier, there are digraphs where you use 2 letters for one sound. So, not really, not exactly, but generally, la, a, t, I, n. 1 letter, 1 sound. And for other languages, it doesn't work exactly like that. So, let's take Korean, for example. If I wrote this correctly, that's if I wrote it correctly. I'm not too sure. Anyways, if you break this down, we can get h, a, n. So h, a, n, g, u, l. I use R. Please tell me I got that right. Hangul. And it's one symbol, right? Kinda one symbol, one sound-ish, but also it's written like this. Why do they pack it like this? Because this is not a word. Wait, I wrote N and G the same way. That can't be right. I got that wrong. Sorry, man, I got that wrong. That's definitely wrong. Now, that's N. I think N is the... Do I go back and fix it? I do go back and fix it. Of course, I gotta correct my mistake when I find it. But, big asterisk on everything. Big asterisk. That's N, right? Please tell me that's the N. So but this is not a word. It's not a word. This is not a thing. You can't just write that. That's not a word, right? That's not you can't just write that one on its own. That's only a part. Kind of similar to how I and J, like this dot, it's just a part of it. Or like something like A and D, the belly here, this is just a part of the letter. This is not the whole thing. So these are parts of the character, but they make up one character. They appear always, I think, asterisk, as one thing. And this is one ja, right? If they do it like the same way the Chinese do, but it's probably, please tell me this is exactly how they call it, but anyways, there are components and they make up words, so you don't ever really write them out on their own. I think they did when they were just getting their typewriter thing, but you don't write this. This is not, like, they don't do this. Hangul, they don't do this, right? This is, I forgot what this is called. This is a syllabary. This is not a syllabary. I forgot what it is. They call it feature rule. Feature rule just describes how they make their letters. It doesn't describe this kind of way of making the language. I don't know what this is, but yeah, mostly this is one syllable. So their syllable can start with a consonant, and then a vowel, and then it can end in a nasal or other consonants, I think. Nasal or other consonants. Roughly. It gets complicated. It gets really complicated. But yeah, this is how Korean works. And we have Japanese. So Japanese is a syllabary. This one I'm sure. Not Japanese. Hiragana and katakana is R syllabary. I just proved my point on is and R is the exact same thing in morphology. They're all just be, the verb. But I mess them up from time to time because in Chinese we don't distinguish those. So Japanese is a syllabary because they have one symbol for sh, I, the entire syllable. Y, a. This is their syllable. That's not the way that the IP slash goes. It goes like this. Anyways, one syllable makes the entire syllable, right? And Japanese syllable is composed of a consonant and then a vowel, or sometimes just the vowel. Cool. So that's how they work. One syllable, one syllable. They're called syllabary. And this is Arabic. Arabic is a abjad. Yes, abjad. Arabic is a abjad because, and I hope I wrote this correctly, but this is a, la, and something that you don't have in Latin alphabet. I could. Do they write it as 3, right, or 2? Whatever. You don't have this in Latin alphabet. You don't have this in English, so I'm not gonna explain it to you. But okay, this is R, la, ra, b, ya. I think that's ya. Please tell me that's ya. Yeah. So I'm gonna put this. So Al Arabiya. So there's a sound here. Al, a, ra, bia. So these aren't written out. You don't find them. Al, a. It goes this way, by the way. It goes right to left. Al, Arabia. These aren't written out, so they only write out their consonants. Roughly, they write out their vowels sometimes, but they kind of just write their consonants and be done with it. And this is the abjad. So in the abjad system, which is a Arabic and Aramaic and Hebrew and ancient Syriac, I think. There's probably tons more. They write the consonant and they're done. That's it. Cool. This is Bengali, if I remember correctly. It's Bengali, and how this system works is we here have a letter for la. This is if I remember correctly, and I'm not sure. I think this is a ka. So you have la and a ka, but okay. Here's the interesting thing. Of course they don't just have these sounds. So how do you write li? Right? I have la and ka. What if I want to write li or ki? What was it? Oh god. Is it this? I think it's this. So you add this thing. This is a ki. And this is ga, right? Ga. And this, for example, this is a I remember. Okay, this is ki. Sorry, this is ki. If I remove this little guy, if I take this away, this is ga. And if I add this little guy, this is ga. This is ga. So la. If nothing here, la. If I add this, li. So they have a template character, which it's either la or like alk or something like that. I forgot how do I write I forgot how to write but like for example alk with like no consonant after, it's written the same. You cannot just say, oh, there's no vowel here, by the way. There may be some abugida that allows you to do this. Oh yeah, this is a abugida system. This is called abugida, and it's when you have consonant as the main character. And this is different from abjad, as in the vowels is mandatory. You have to write it out. This is liga or lig, and you have to write this. If it's a e, you have to write this. Whereas in a abjad system, this can very well be al arbia or al arbia. There's nothing here, but it's al arabia. There is things here, but they just don't write it. For an abugida system, you have to write it. The main distinction. And these guys in Latin alphabet, they work the same way actually. They are alphabets. So one letter, one sound. Let's make an example somewhere. What is a word? It was a Russian word, I still remember. I don't know if I remember any Russian words. There's a lazy one. Me. Do they use this? No. I think they don't. Me. Metro. Me. O. Metro. So metro. One letter, one sound. And I think they have digraphs as well. Do they have digraphs in Russian? For loan words, yes, they have like this. Okay. They have this in like, I don't know if they write this actually. Sh, a, 上海 I'm being inconsistent again. 哈 Shanghai, Shanghai, right? Do they write it like this? Please tell me they do. I am not sure. There are definitely languages that use Cyrillic and have digraphs. Greek, the seed of these other two, they both came from Greek, but not this Greek. This is the new one. They have an old one. So Old Greek turns into New Greek and Latin and Cyrillic. Go look up the history of it. Really cool stuff. Really cool stuff. This works the same way. I don't know if I remember any words. Rata for cat. Did they call it that? That one's boring. Yasu, which is the hello. How do they use e? E? No, not this e. Oh, they have two e, by the way. It's fucked up. Yeah. How do they write su? This? Is this how you write su? This is yasu. This is hello in Greek, modern Greek, yasu, and that's the e. Actually, two-letter, one sound again. This digraph, ya, si, u. Digraphs again. Yasu. Okay, cool. So these are alphabets, and they kind of don't have particular weights, like on consonant being more important or vowels being more important. It's just kind of everywhere. Probably the most interesting one, I would say, being a Chinese speaker, I have to say that. But I would say that our logography system is very cool, so we call that a logography. And Chinese is the only one that's still widely used, or otherwise known as CJKV, because Chinese, Japanese, Korean, and Vietnamese are big groups of people who use these Chinese characters a lot. So the Chinese characters isn't only Chinese. Like, if I remember correctly, this is the Japanese for country. This is don't tell me I forgot how to write it. I didn't. This is traditional Chinese, so what we use in Taiwan and Hong Kong for country. And what's the simplified one? It was like this or something. Nah. Sorry, I forgot. There's something in the middle. I forgot how it looked like. Anyways, these are all technically Chinese characters, but they don't just belong to Chinese. They're just there. You can use them for whatever. We don't have like a copyright or some shit. Just do whatever. That's a logography system. Why do we call it a logography system? Because this is not the best example, but this is cat. And this is specifically cat. This is just cat. Okay? I'm not making sense. Let me fix that. Let me make it make sense. So this is the number 1. It's just a straight line. This is the character for shirt, clothes. Guess how you pronounce them. This is E. This is E. Same thing, pronounced exactly the same, but they look different, right? So kind of similar to how in English you have God, what's the English homophone. Die and die. They're exactly the same. But they look different. Kinda like that. But we got it from a different source. So in English you get this because there's an earlier word that kind of looks like this, and it probably was pronounced differently also. And this comes from a word that looks more like it. Yeah. You got this because of etymology, because two words that sounded different ended up in a modern language with the same sound. So they're written different. The people who wrote them thought they pronounced it different, but you don't anymore. And that's why you also have this in English. But in Chinese we have this because they used to be symbols. So I don't know what symbol it used to represent, but this one is obvious. So you might have heard of this, that our writings came from how the thing actually looks like. This means volcano, by the way, fire mountain. Very cool. So this is depicting fire, and this is depicting mountain. In fact, I think in Zhuan, so Seal script, they still write mountain like this. This is still how they write mountain. I think. I'm not 100% sure. Asterisks everywhere. But it used to be just drawing these symbols. But how did it came to mean language, right? You have symbols that mean things. You have emojis. There's a skull. There's a bone, and you have skull. And you have heart. These are symbols that represent meaning as well. And we have pronunciation of them. We call them heart or skull, bone, or I don't know, happy. We have pronunciation as well. We have symbol as well. Is this a logography? Almost. Almost. You're one step away, actually. So we already do this. Many languages, many cultures, they did this. Everybody did this. What sets us apart is language. This does not convey language. Does not convey language. It conveys meaning, not language. So how do we know? The reason I said that you're almost there is because you could say emoji A. Let's use animals because I love animals. Say this is a little bird. Does it look like a bird? Let's use a cat. Let's say cat. Heart. Mouse. Please tell me this looks like a mouse. Cat loves mouse. Let's give it whiskers. Nah, fuck it. If you say a cat loves mouse, I am not good at writing English. That's logography. Congrats. That's it. That's what logography is. If instead you were to put this here, and this here, and you still say in English, cat loves mouse. I'm not writing it out. If you call this cat loves mouse, or even mouse loves cat, or if you call the above here, if you call this mouse loves cat, it's not logography. Because logography is a writing system that represents language. That's why we call it a writing system in the first place. It's not just symbols, iconographies. It is how we record language. We don't just use it to record ideas. We extend that to record language. So, say you have these two sentences and they mean different things, then you have a logography, basically. Because you have some writings that reflect how you actually speak. And this is actually a big thing. Like, we know how ancient Chinese people, the people who invented the oracle script, we know roughly how they spoke because we can see the word orders of how they put these symbols. We can see the order of them. We can see them using other symbols, like maybe they use a little tree symbol here for seemingly no reason. They just go to the back somewhere after a noun, for example. A tree. Is it about a tree? Is it related to a tree? But it seems to just go anywhere, even when the article wasn't talking about tree in particular. And that's because that is I forgot the name of this. In Chinese we call it 假借, so like borrowed. We borrowed the character for tree for other meanings, because when you spoke, you said cat loves mouse moo, or something like that, because you say milk. Cat loves mouse milk. It's just a feature of your language. It's just a grammar. You just have to say mok after this thing, and this doesn't have meaning specifically. It just goes to the back, clarifies meaning. It doesn't mean anything on its own. How do we write that? So how we write that is that the word for tree is also mok. So you just use the character for tree to stand in. It's a stand-in. I'll call it a stand-in. There's a word for this. That's a sign of logography, because it's not a cat loves mouse tree. It's not that. It's not how you don't. This is not what you're trying to say. But you're trying to say cat loves mouse mok, and you can use that with the symbol of tree. So. This is why I said that we are actually almost on the verge of developing a logography with these symbols, because if you suddenly just start using random symbols to like spell your name, for example, maybe is there a nice name that I can just make with emojis? There's gotta be one. Please tell me I can think of one. What's Matt, for example? Oh, Matt. Matt is a good one. So, if you begin to spell your name as mouse cat, and you actually expect the other person, and successfully, like the other person reads it out as at. Your name is Matt. Cat mouse. Sorry, mouse cat. So at. And if you say your name is this thing, you write it down this way, and the people who read it understand that you mean Matt. We have a logography. We're almost making a logography. We can make emojis actual logography. You're one step away. Be imaginative. So yeah, this is what you can do with logography, and this is after a couple thousand years later. We have this is not how you say it in Mandarin. This is not the correct way that you say this in Mandarin, but I'm gonna write it out because it's cute. You can say this. This used to be this. I'm gonna like really just be real with you here. You're correct that we're almost there. You're correct that this is almost logography. It was this. This was this. You're one step away. Anyways, I'm gonna leave this here. So that's orthography. That's, I think, everything I can say about linguistics. Am I done? I can elaborate on every one of those asterisks, but I think I'm gonna go off because I'm super thirsty right now, and it's been a while. Cool. So, bye.